why are we talking about Gov Tech, right? Because it's a popular thing, right? It's something that I'm seeing in my algorithm as far as Gov Tech this, Gov Tech that, get into Gov Tech. It's so easy. It's super easy to get into Gov Tech.
That's what I'm hearing. Honestly, the term Gov Tech is a new term.
It's a new thing, right? Right. Gov Tech. Yeah. I thought I'm in that.
I had to research it like. What up, Tech fam? It's Johnnie Tech, and I'm here with.
What is Tech? What up? What up?
This is Just My Tech Sense, where we talk tech and finance. What's going on today, Will?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I can't complain, man. It's been a good day so far, man.
Okay.
How you living?
Man, not too bad. I can't complain whatsoever, man.
Okay.
I think, life is good, man. I was gonna say something about the Steelers, but I like what they're doing. I think I'm gonna have to sign a 1-year contract and become a Steelers fan. Yeah.
Are you a Steelers fan, or are you just feeling that they picked up Justin Fields?
I'm rooting for the underdog. It's not about Justin Fields. I mean, I'm not a Justin Fields fan, but I'm rooting for him because I feel like he just hasn't been given a fair shake.
Fair shake, right?
So him, Russell Wilson, again, not the biggest fan, but at the same time, I feel like the way that Denver did him was dirty. He
was playing terrible in Denver. I'm just gonna put
he was playing okay.
He was playing terrible in Denver.
Okay. Again, I am not into the stats, but I'm sure if you go back and you look, he's probably doing better than a lot of the quarterbacks out there.
No, I'll give him that. Like, did they treat him? Did they treat him great? No, but they didn't get the product that they were expecting. But it's okay. I'm not a fan of Denver. I'm not a fan of Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
I'm a 49ers fan. So.
Yeah, and then what's the head coach's name? Tomlin?
Yeah, Tomlin.
Yeah, again, I just feel like he ain't getting a fair shake, man. I mean, this man won a Super Bowl. So, again, I'm just rooting for the underdog. So, at the end of the day, go and sign me up. I'm not a Steelers fan.
So, you're not a Steelers fan, but so who are you a fan of?
We're not going to talk about that.
Okay.
We don't need to.
I just want to know, man. I'm a 49ers.
We don't need to get in that.
I'm a 49ers fan.
That's cool.
Okay,
that's cool. Right. I mean, look, if players can go to different teams and head coach and go to different teams, and why can't fans, go to different teams?
Okay,
that's all I'm going to say.
So I'm going to tell you right now, the way you're sounding,
don't do it.
You know what? Let's go ahead and get into it, man.
Exactly.
We're talking about Gov Tech today. We want to jump in and kind of discuss what are some of the things about.
Well, I mean, why are we talking about Gov Tech, right? Because it's a popular thing, right? It's something that I'm seeing in my algorithm as far as Gov Tech this, Gov Tech that, get into Gov Tech. It's so easy. It's super easy to get into Gov Tech.
That's what I'm hearing. Honestly, the term Gov Tech is a new term.
It's a new thing, right? Gov Tech. Yeah. I thought I'm in that.
I had to research it. Like, this is like, am I missing something? What is Gov Tech?
I'm in Gov Tech.
Right.
That's my industry.
Exactly. I've been doing this for a number of years.
Right.
Okay.
But we ain't called it Gov Tech. But yeah, I guess that's what it is, right?
Right.
So, yeah, the internet has it on fire, and we just want to talk about it.
Right. So, okay. So, what are you? In your opinion, why do you feel like it's on fire right now? Why is it in your algorithm so much?
I think it's just something that hasn't really ever been discussed, right? People don't know how to break in. People don't know what it is. And I think it's just one of those, things come and go. So I think it's just one of those things that, when you feel like it's an easy thing to break into, right? All you need is a clearance, right? Like that's the easiest thing to do, that anybody can just do it. Then, and you feel like once you break into Gov Tech, attached to that is six figures.
Right.
It becomes all the rage or the popular thing. And
so you're telling me that you need a clearance to do Gov Tech?
To be totally honest, I'm going to say that yes, for the most part. But I'm sure there are jobs out there that maybe you don't need Gov Tech. I can't speak for every single job, but the jobs that I've been in, you need a security clearance.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think that's probably one of the reasons that it's been a conversation lately, and rightfully so. Right. If it's something that people want to bring to light, then do it. But yeah, I just don't think it is as easy as people are making it
right.
seem to be, or there's sacrifice that you're going to have to do, right? Whether it's a bad location, right, or and I won't say this is a bad thing to do, but join the military, right, and get your clearance. There are ways that you're not just going to go into some office and say, yeah, I want a security clearance, and everything's going to be.
So basically, when people jump online, they say, okay, what is Gov Tech? They look into, like I said, it's somewhat of a new term. They start looking into Gov Tech. What is Gov Tech? Like, I want to get into this. There's going to be some things that X you out right away that you're not allowed to do, you can't do, or you may not want to do. That's already going to take you out of that field. Yeah. So when people are just kind of promoting it as like, hey, you can jump into it, like Gov Tech and cybersecurity are hand in hand. Like if that's the wave to get into. Yeah. No, just kind of discussing like it's more to it than just that. Yeah. But I definitely think there are huge benefits in being a part of.
Yeah, if you can get into it.
If you can get into it, and honestly, a lot of people can get into it. And I think the easiest way to do it is join the military. But I'm not gonna say that's just easy. But I mean, it's not. That might be to me. I think that's the easiest way if you wanted to kind of dive into it.
Yeah, and so I don't know which way is easier, right? Because you can take a poor location like Kuwait, right? There are jobs that are plentiful in Kuwait, and again, I just think there is a misconception when it comes to Kuwait or some of these other locations. I actually enjoyed being in Kuwait. I mean, it was hot, but outside of that, actually doing the job there wasn't an issue. But there's some other jobs that you may have to go to isolated situation in order to get that security clearance. Would I rather do that, or would I rather join the military? Right. I'd rather join the military, but I've been doing this military thing for over 19 years, and I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people, make it out to be at all. And
that's a whole other topic we can get into, like, because the military in itself, I think it gets a bad rap for what it actually does and what it does. I'm also I'm in the Air National Guard, so people, they hate on that sometimes, but hey, I put my time in. But with that being said, I think it sometimes the military gets a bad rap, and I think that it really does put you in a position to where you can kind of level yourself up, especially when we're talking about Gov Tech. So in general, like you said, you've been in it, Gov Tech for a number of years. What are some of the things that you can say? Kind of like not to say we want to debunk anything that people are saying about it, but what's your opinion overall on Gov Tech?
Yeah, I think if you can get into the space, it's really good. I think if you can get a security clearance, it's good because there is stability in having a security clearance that puts you in a different category than other people. Right. And I think once you achieve that, you keep that, the likeliness of you, getting canned from a job or getting fired from a job, it's less likely than if you're on the private side. So I think if you can get into it by any means, whether it's, signing up and going to a crappy location or joining the military, however you can get it, go for it, because again, it's worth the sacrifice. Right. It's worth the 4 years of whatever it is you got to do in order to be, good later on. Right. So I think from that standpoint, if you can get in, cool. Once you get in, again, I think because of how the government has to move, how we have to be security conscious, we are less likely to adapt newer technologies. Right. So understanding once you get into your job, you're going to have this technology and you're going to have plenty of time to learn it. Right. Where, again, it's not, every other day that it's this, new and shiny object that you have to go chasing after. Right. So once you do that, again, I think it just becomes, from that standpoint, it becomes a lot easier to do well in that space. So what are your thoughts?
Definitely. Like what you just said, I think you touched on a lot of different topics at one time. So the way I would describe it is getting so if you want to get into Gov Tech, the number one thing I believe that you need is, you have to have it. You have to have a clearance on the majority of the jobs there. I would say, just to throw a random number, 90%. Y'all can fact check me on that. Yeah. But you're
probably wrong, but it's okay. I mean, it might be 99%.
Exactly.
It's a high number.
It's definitely high. So like most people I know that work in the GovTech space, they do have a clearance. So I think the number one thing is if you can get yourself a clearance and you can get into the field, that's great. And then that's where the benefits that you're going to see are going to start coming in. So like you said, I think you mentioned somewhat of job security.
Yeah.
That's all based on clearance because you're basically putting yourself in a different pool of people.
Yeah.
So if I go and I apply for a position at Google and there, let's say these are arbitrary numbers. Let's say there's 10 million people in this pool of people.
That's right.
There's going to be less people in the pool of people that are applying at so-and-so government contracting
company.
Requirements. Exactly.
Yep.
So you're putting yourself in a smaller pool of people to where, okay, it's a smaller pool, you have a greater chance of getting selected. So then the next thing, as far as with GOV Tech, I think is a definite benefit of what your job security point is. Okay, now you have a clearance. There's a certain amount of money and a certain amount of things that have to be done for you to get into wherever you're at, the location. So therefore, you have more time to learn a position because the amount of time it's going to take for them to replace you. So therefore, you have time to learn the job. If things happen to change working in that environment, then they're going to give you an opportunity. Like, hey, we're moving to a Linux-based system. I don't really know Linux too much, but they're going to give you an opportunity to learn. But if you work for somewhere on the outside, we could bring some guys in that know Linux, and then you might be out of a job. Right. So, and the reason I say that because I worked GOV Tech, and I've worked before I've joined the military. I worked on the commercial side, and they're like, "Hey, man, we're going to the cloud." Right. Right. I was like, "What? That's my job." Right. But not, and I think that's those are some of the benefits. So I think I'm all for GOV Tech. I love it. I'm a government contractor now, and I pretty much enjoy it. But I just think that when we're talking about it, I'm glad that it's getting some shine and people are being aware of it. But I want people to know all the nuances of it and what you really need to do and how it can help you. Yeah. Personally, I think you make more money in GOV Tech.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. But before we get to that piece, I really don't agree with that statement. I think when you think about GOV Tech, a lot of it you think about from the contract side. Mm-hmm. But you have your DA side, your DA, DOD side where you're, Department of Defense, civilian, or Department of Army, whatever it is, you're actually a GS employee, right? They're still working on there's GOV Tech there as well, just like on the military side. Right. And when you start talking about stability on the GOV Tech side, when you become a GS employee.
Yeah, when you become GS, you become immortal, right? If that's what they say.
No. Right. There's still pips and there are still things out there, but it's a lot harder, right, to lose your job once you pass your probation period. Right. So again, you got that side where you kind of want to lock in stability, and then you might look at becoming a GS employee. Versus it being a government contractor, because again, there is a little instability on the government contract side when we sit here and we have these contract reviews, right? Because we do a lot of things with option years, and we're reviewing, contracts, and you just never know, like what's going to be the outcome, of any option year contract. So that's something as a contractor that you have to think about when you're entering into the space versus when you're on the GS side, that isn't there. However, right, the compensation, as you said, is different than when you're a GS employee, when you're on the military side, or when you're a government contractor, where you might be getting paid a little bit more for your services because the talent that you guys bring, and being out in the field and maybe being a little bit more agile than we are because we've been using older technology, and you come in and you bring a different perspective, a different experience to energize what we have going on.
Okay, I'm hearing what you're saying there. I can agree with that.
Yeah, but when it comes to GOV Tech versus private industry, I just think you're capped, right? Unless you are like, the PM for a prime contract, or the CEO or COO, or you're somebody senior on a prime contract. I really think that as a sub or as a government contractor, that you are capped. Now that cap may be in the ones, that cap may be in the twos, but I feel like you don't know what your limit could be on the private side.
Well, let's talk about it in the sense of GovTech. When most people are mentioning GovTech, and what we do, we talk cybersecurity and finance. Yep. But so in a sense, like, okay, we talk about I'm a cyber analyst. So the reason I would, if we're gonna go ahead and jump into some of the pay scale, I would say if you look on, and everything is different. I know we can talk about job titles and we can kind of discuss that, and it changes. But if you look at the details of what you're asked to do on a particular position on the commercial side, and then you look at what you're doing GovTech wise on the skill sets that they're asking for and the amount of pay, I've definitely seen positions where, okay, these job descriptions line up, but GovTech side, the range may be in the 6-figure range, and then the commercial side, the range is a bit lower. Yeah. 5 figures.
Yeah. I okay. Now that I think about it, right? I think it's even. I do, because again, there are jobs, let's say jobs that I would do that may be lower pay on the government side, that because of the responsibility are, extremely high on the commercial side. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think, but you're right though, because you look at, some of the entry-level positions, and you might be looking at 60, 70,000 on the commercial side. Mm-hmm. And then when you start talking about government side, you might be looking at the 120s, 130s, right? So from that standpoint, okay, on the entry-level side of things, I can agree with you.
Okay.
When it comes to the more senior side of things, I just disagree with you.
Okay. I mean, and I think, so honestly, we disagree overall, so that's why I say we're probably even on top, because I actually agree with you when you get to a more senior leadership roles, when your skill sets become to a certain level, like I want to get paid this amount. Yeah. Or if you become I want to be a security engineer, so like I'm working towards that direction to become senior. So I'm scripting, automation. So that's not, I'm not gonna say it's not valued as much on the GovTech side, but like on the outside, I see like those security engineers on the outside are making upwards of some positions 200,000 depending on where you go. And I know there's people on the GovTech side that are making that, but that's not the norm. Right. But I think it comes down to what you said, responsibility. I think on the GovTech side, like you are responsible if you make mistakes there. I mean, you're putting the nation at risk there. So I think that's where some of the pay can come from as well. Yeah. So. Yeah, and I think again the caliber based on the clearance, right? I think that's why the entry level is so different, right? Because you kind of are getting a vetted individual as far as who they are, right? Because again, you get a security clearance, and let's say you work in a skiff or some kind of place where you like actually need that you're getting high levels you're exposed to high levels of information, right? You have to be trustworthy. Exactly. Right. And I think, just to have, again, that smaller pool of people that have been vetted, the government is paying for that on the entry level side. Right. Okay. So there's an agreement. So basically we came to the conclusion that I'm right. No. Again, you are half right. You are half right. And you're half wrong. I think that's what we've come to. We can agree to disagree. Okay. That you are half wrong. Okay, we can go with that. But I think just in general. So, are there any other things that you feel like you've seen out there as far as in GovTech, like that you would want the people to know about? I want to go to my notes because I feel like we're missing something. So, is there anything that you feel like you want them to know? I mean, I think we've discussed a few different things and kind of given them a overall look at what GovTech is and why it's become popular, and some of the how much money you can make within GovTech and some of the pros and cons. I mean, as far as I think the job security is one of the biggest things we talked about that I think is really important, just especially in this day and age with cybersecurity and how fast things are changing. I definitely think job security, to me, that's the number one thing I look at, and pay, of course, too. Yeah. Yeah, there's I'd be interested because you are on the government contractor side, and maybe it's different for every contract, but I would be interested in
higher learning or compensation when it comes to certifications. And we don't have to talk about that now. We can talk about that on a different segment since we're running low on time. But that would be something that I would be interested in looking into. I know on the government side, the government feeds you pretty well when it comes to education benefits, certification, vouchers, and those kind of things.
I think that's 100% on the GS side of it. On the contracting side, that's still, so when you say GovTech, there's still a difference. You say a contractor, you're not necessarily, you work for the government through that contract. So that contract is through your company. So you still have to get with a good company that's going to provide those things. So it's up to that company to provide you with the tuition assistance or certification, reimbursement, those type of things. So you have to get with a good company. But on the GS side of GovTech, I definitely heard great things like, with as far as tuition assistance, putting you through courses to help you learn the job. So I mean, and I think that's where some of the pay discrepancy could be there as well, because they're providing you tons of benefits. So
yeah, and you talked about also like the repercussions of when you make mistakes, and I think about the commercial side, right? You make a mistake, we're talking about reputation, we're talking about loss of revenue, right? And on the GovTech side, we're talking about security, right, of the nation,
right?
And it's like which side has more pressure, right? Because you're talking about bottom line over here, right, and it's easy for you to get fired, right.
Well, I think a good example of what you're saying is a lot of times when you're working in the GovTech space versus working out on in the private sector. So, like I said, you may lose your job, your reputation is sullied or whatever. It's gonna be hard to get another job.
So is the companies.
And so is the company. But if you make a particular mistake on the GovTech side, the worst thing that can happen is you can go to jail, and I think that is much worse than just being fired. So, okay, I've seen a lot of that. I've seen a lot of that out there. Like you gonna go to jail. So
okay, yeah. I can't really beat that. So,
but nah, man. Yeah, like I said, nobody wants to go. Nobody wants to go to jail. But
okay. But I think we've talked about GovTech enough,
right?
And I mean, what are your thoughts on GovTech? If you're in it, was it easy to get a security clearance? The technology. Do you feel like it just changes? I understand everybody's experience is going to be different, but I feel like with the depth and breadth of what we have as far as our experience in the space, that our general assessment of the situation is valid. So, but again, there are outliers out there that may have different experiences. So I'd be interested in hearing, what they are. Did you have an easy time getting a clearance, or did it take, 6 months, a year and a half to actually get a clearance, and then, maybe it fell through.
Right. So I definitely think like this is something that we probably would talk about again. Like GovTech is, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think the topic is out there a lot. We're probably going to talk about it a lot more throughout the our broadcast that we talk about. But I think now we kind of at least giving people something to talk about, a different perspective of what GovTech is, and kind of a good synopsis of start to finish of what we believe in our opinion on it. So.
Yeah, and I think, and not to talk about it, not to belabor this at all, because and this is rhetorical in nature, but I'd like to talk about the actual government contracts. That's been a big thing that's also been in my algorithm is, getting earning a government contract as a prime or a sub, or
been hearing a lot about that as well.
Yeah, so we should probably talk about that in a later episode. So,
for sure.
But thank you for tuning in. Please, if you'd like to, comment, subscribe, and we'll talk to you in the next video. Y'all be safe.
Good one.